Have you ever woken up, looked around, and thought, what now? Maybe the house feels a little too quiet these days. The phone rings less. The routine feels, well, a little too routine. Life keeps moving, but sometimes it feels like we're standing still, like we've been left behind by the pace of the world around us. And if you've been through something big, a retirement, a loss, or even just the kids moving out, it can hit you like a wave. Suddenly, the life you built around certain roles or routines feels like it's disappeared, and you're left wondering who you're supposed to be now. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know something right from the start: you are not alone. Feeling stuck after a major life change is more common than you think, especially as we get older. And the good news? You're not done yet. In fact, this moment, right here, right now, might be the perfect time for a fresh start. We've been told so many times that reinvention is for the young. That after a certain age, we're supposed to settle down, stay in place, and simply watch life from the sidelines. But that's just not true. Reinvention has no age limit. Whether you're 60, 70, or beyond, your story isn't over, it's just entering a new chapter. And this chapter? It can be the most rewarding one yet. So today, I want to talk with you, heart to heart, about how to find your way forward again. Not with big, dramatic changes that feel overwhelming, but with small, meaningful shifts that open doors to new possibilities. We'll explore real, practical ways to feel energized, curious, and connected again, even if you haven't felt that way in a long time. Let's start right here, with something simple but powerful: accepting where you are. Now I know that might sound basic, maybe even a little frustrating. When you're stuck, the last thing you want to do is sit in it. But hear me out, acceptance isn't about giving up. It's about letting go of the need to fight the past or rush into the future. It's about saying, okay, this is where I am. This is what life looks like right now. And that's alright. Because when you stop resisting the reality of your current situation, something shifts. You make space. Space for healing. Space for new ideas. Space for possibilities you hadn't even considered yet. I once met a woman named Carol who retired after 35 years of teaching. She thought retirement would be relaxing, but instead, she felt adrift. She tried filling her days with errands, hobbies, even volunteering, but nothing really lit her up. It wasn't until she sat down and truly faced her new reality that she realized what she missed most wasn't the job, it was the sense of purpose it gave her. And that simple realization became the seed of something new. She didn't rush to find a solution. She just sat with it. She journaled, she talked to friends, she let herself grieve the loss of that identity. And slowly, ideas began to come. Today, she runs a small local group that mentors young teachers, sharing what she's learned, staying connected, and feeling purposeful again. See, that's the thing about reinvention. It doesn't happen in one big leap. It starts with noticing. Noticing what's missing. Noticing what still excites you. Noticing the quiet little voice inside that says, maybe I could try. And that brings me to the next step: curiosity. Curiosity is like a muscle, and just like any other muscle, it can weaken if we don't use it. But it never disappears. It just gets quiet. Think back, when was the last time you learned something totally new? Tried something out of the ordinary? Even just explored a different walking route, or listened to a new kind of music? The smallest shift in curiosity can reignite something deep within us. I knew a man in his 70s, Jack, who felt completely uninspired after his wife passed. He told me, "I've lived a full life. I don't need anything new." But then one day, out of pure boredom, he picked up a beginner's guitar book at the library. At first, it was just to pass time. But weeks turned into months, and now Jack plays at the local community center. He even writes little songs for his grandkids. He laughs more. He stands taller. He didn't set out to reinvent himself, but curiosity nudged him, and he followed. It doesn't have to be music. It could be painting, birdwatching, learning how to use that new phone you've been avoiding, or even just asking your neighbor about that garden they're always tending. Curiosity can crack open the shell we build around ourselves when life feels heavy. And once you've let in that spark of curiosity, something magical happens. You begin to dream again. Not the kind of dreaming we did when we were 20, but the kind that says, maybe there's something more for me here. That kind of dreaming brings us to the next part of reinvention, giving yourself permission. This one's a biggie. Because often, what holds us back isn't the world around us, it's the little voice in our head that says, you're too old for this. Or, people will think you've lost it. That voice, that self-doubt, it's powerful. But it's not the truth. You've spent your whole life showing up for others. For your family, your career, your responsibilities. And maybe no one ever told you this, but you deserve joy. You deserve discovery. You deserve to do something just for you, not because it checks a box or fits a role, but because it fills your spirit. There's a woman I met, Nancy, who always wanted to write. Her whole life, she wrote little poems and tucked them away in drawers. She raised kids, supported her husband's business, and never once called herself a writer. But in her late 60s, after her second grandchild was born, she decided to collect those poems and print them into a small book. She gave copies to her family as Christmas gifts. The response? Overwhelming. Her daughter cried. Her grandson brought it to school. A friend asked for extra copies. And suddenly, Nancy was a writer, not because she sold 1 million books, but because she finally gave herself permission to share what was already inside her. That's the beauty of reinvention. It doesn't mean becoming someone else. It means returning to parts of yourself you may have forgotten. It means remembering that you still have something to give. Something to create. Something to explore. Now that we've opened the door to acceptance, curiosity, and permission, let's keep walking forward. And as we keep walking forward, there's something else we need to talk about. It's not flashy. It's not dramatic. But it's one of the most powerful forces in your journey of reinvention: consistency. Now, I know that word might sound like a chore. Maybe it brings to mind strict routines or long to-do lists. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the gentle, steady rhythm of showing up for yourself every day in small, meaningful ways. Let's say you've discovered a spark of curiosity. Maybe it's painting, gardening, joining a walking group, or even learning how to use your smartphone to video call the grandkids. That's wonderful. But it's not just the moment you start that matters, it's the moments you keep going. Even when it feels like you're not getting anywhere. Even when it feels silly or uncertain. That's where the transformation happens. I remember chatting with a man named Robert. He'd always loved woodworking, but he hadn't touched a piece of lumber in over 20 years. After retiring, he decided to build a birdhouse. Just one. It was wobbly, the paint ran a little, and he almost gave up halfway through. But he finished it, and hung it right outside his kitchen window. The next week, he built another. A few months later, neighbors were asking if he sold them. Now he runs a tiny Etsy shop, just for fun. Not because he needs the money, but because it brings him joy, and that joy multiplies each time he sees someone else smile because of something he made with his own hands. That's what happens when you show up for yourself regularly. It's not about perfection. It's about momentum. You start to feel more like you again. You begin to trust yourself again. And speaking of trust, let's talk about something that often goes unspoken: fear. Because let's be honest, reinventing yourself isn't always sunshine and inspiration. Sometimes it's scary. Sometimes it means letting go of what's familiar, even if that familiarity hasn't been making you happy. Sometimes it means stepping into a space where you're not quite sure who you are anymore. And that can feel like walking through fog with no clear path in sight. But here's the thing about fear, it doesn't mean stop. It just means you're doing something that matters. You don't get nervous about things that don't matter. Fear shows up when you're close to something real, something that might stretch you, change you, help you grow. When I think of fear, I think of Evelyn. She lost her husband after nearly 50 years of marriage. For a long time, she didn't leave the house much. The world felt too big, too fast, too lonely. But one day, her granddaughter asked her to come watch her dance recital. She almost said no, she didn't like being around crowds, or driving at night, or having to sit by herself. But she said yes. That one yes turned into more. More outings. More invitations. And eventually, Evelyn found herself taking a senior yoga class, not because she wanted to be flexible, but because she wanted to feel alive again. She told me, it was terrifying walking into that room the first time. But now I laugh more in that hour than I have in years. So if you're feeling scared, take that as a sign. A sign that something important is waiting just beyond the fear. A sign that you're still capable of growing, stretching, becoming. And when fear shows up, it helps to have something else in place, connection. This is one of the most underrated parts of reinventing yourself, especially in later life. When we feel stuck, it's easy to isolate ourselves. To retreat into routine. To pull away from others because it feels safer, easier, or even less painful. But isolation can quietly drain us, day by day. Connection doesn't have to be big or complicated. It doesn't even have to mean making new friends right away. It can be as simple as chatting with the person who bags your groceries. Smiling at the neighbor walking their dog. Calling someone you haven't spoken to in a while and just saying, "I was thinking about you." These small acts are like seeds. Plant enough of them, and soon, something starts to bloom. I once met a gentleman named Frank who joined a community walking club. Not because he was super into walking, but because he needed something to do. He told me, "I didn't really talk to anyone the first few weeks. I just walked and listened." But week after week, he showed up. Eventually, someone struck up a conversation. Then another. Now, he says the walks are the best part of his week, not because of the exercise, but because of the company. Connection reminds us that we're not alone. That our lives still matter to others. That even when we feel invisible, someone is willing to see us. And sometimes, in those conversations, we hear ourselves again, our hopes, our humor, our humanity. Now, you might be wondering, but where do I start? And the answer is, right where you are. Reinvention isn't about moving to a new city or making a grand announcement. It's about choosing to care about your life again. Choosing to be curious again. Choosing to take one small action today that says, "I'm still here. And I'm not done yet." So whether it's digging up an old hobby, joining a local class, or just going for a short walk with no destination in mind, what matters most is that you move. Not quickly. Not perfectly. Just forward. Let's keep going from here. There's more to uncover, more to explore, and more waiting for you than you might realize. And as we keep moving forward, one step at a time, something remarkable starts to happen. You begin to see things differently, not just the world around you, but yourself. The way you speak to yourself softens. You stop looking at the clock or the calendar as something that's running out, and instead start to see it as time opening up. A fresh stretch of road, waiting to be traveled with new eyes. One of the most life-changing parts of reinventing yourself is allowing permission to dream again. It's something many of us stopped doing somewhere along the way, maybe because we were too busy raising a family, working long hours, or just dealing with life as it came. But your ability to dream didn't vanish. It might be quiet, like a whisper, but it's still there. It's waiting for you to ask, what if? What if you took that class you never had time for? What if you wrote that story you've carried inside you for years? What if you planned a trip, even just a little weekend getaway, to a place you've always wanted to visit but never did. Dreaming isn't silly. It's not something reserved for the young. It's fuel. It's the thing that keeps your spirit awake. And you don't have to dream big, you just have to dream honestly. I spoke once with a woman named Louise who, after turning 72, decided to start writing poetry. Not to get published or to impress anyone, but because she said it helped her express the feelings that didn't have anywhere else to go. She wrote poems about her childhood, about losing her sister, about the way sunlight made her living room glow in the morning. She shared one with her church group. Then another. Eventually, her pastor asked her to read one aloud during service. Her voice shook, but when she finished, the room was completely still. Then came the clapping. People felt seen through her words. And she realized her dreams weren't just for her, they were for others, too. And that's another thing we don't talk about enough, how your reinvention, your growth, your healing, it rises outward. It touches the people around you. When you light that little spark inside yourself, it gives others permission to do the same. You becoming more you doesn't take anything away from anyone. It adds something. It creates space for connection, for stories, for shared courage. Sometimes, all it takes is one person in a circle to say, "I'm starting again," and suddenly someone else says, "You know what? Me too." And if there's one truth I want to leave with you today, it's this: you are not too old, too late, or too broken to begin again. You are alive. Right now. And that's enough. Even if your body aches more than it used to, even if you've lost people you never thought you'd have to live without, even if some mornings you wake up feeling like the best is already behind you, I promise, there is still so much ahead. And not just the quiet kind of, make the most of it, living. I'm talking about real, rich, beautiful life. The kind that surprises you. That warms you. That makes you laugh out loud when you didn't think you had it in you anymore. You are allowed to try new things. To say no to what doesn't serve you anymore. To seek peace instead of perfection. To find joy in small, ordinary moments and let those moments be enough. Maybe for you, reinventing yourself means starting slow, giving yourself grace, space, and a little bit of silence to hear what your heart is saying. Maybe it means trying something new every week, like joining a book club, volunteering, or learning how to play an instrument just because it sounds fun. Maybe it means healing, letting go of something heavy you've carried for too long. Whatever it means, just know that it's not a race. There's no timer. No scoreboard. Reinvention is personal. It's intimate. It's yours. And I hope that after watching this, you feel just a little bit more hopeful. A little more seen. Because you're not alone. There are thousands, millions, even, of others walking the same uncertain road, asking the same questions, daring to believe that maybe, just maybe, there's still something wonderful waiting around the corner. So tell me, what's one small thing you've been wanting to do, but haven't yet? Share it in the comments. Not just for me, but for the others who will read it and think, if they can do it, maybe I can too. If this video stirred something in you, even just a little, I'd be so grateful if you'd give it a like, or share it with someone you care about. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, go ahead and subscribe. This channel is here for you. To inspire, to support, and to remind you that your story is far from over. Here's to the next chapter. May it be bold. May it be gentle. And above all, may it be yours. You've still got time. You've still got purpose. And you've still got so much life left to live. Here's to living it fully, with your whole heart, one beautiful day at a time.